From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! We're broadcasting from the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah.
Starting in 2011, we are prepared to freeze government spending for 3 years. Spending related to our national security, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security will not be affected. But all other discretionary government programs will.
President Obama delivers his first State of the Union address. Then the legendary historian Howard Zinn has died.
The idea of people's history is to go beyond what people have learned in school, and what I learned in school, or most people learn in school, and that is history through the eyes of the presidents and the generals and the battles fought in the Civil War. And we want the voices of people, of ordinary people, of rebels, of dissidents, of women, of black people, of Asian Americans, of immigrants, of socialists and anarchists and troublemakers of all kinds.
We'll remember Howard Zinn in his own words, and we'll speak with his friend Naomi Chomsky and Naomi Klein. We'll also talk to Alice Walker. She was a student of Zinn's at Spelman College in the early 60s, and with Anthony Arnav co-authored All Voices of the People's History of the United States with Zinn. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Obama's delivered his first State of the Union address Wednesday night with a pledge to focus on the nation's economic recovery. Vowing to help spur job creation, Obama also unveiled his expected announcement to freeze government spending programs next year and address the logjam over health care reform, urging Democrats to continue trying to pass legislation.
2011, we are prepared to freeze government spending for 3 years. Spending related to our national security, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security will not be affected. But all other discretionary government programs will. Like any cash-strapped family, we will work within a budget to invest in what we need and sacrifice what we don't.
Obama also addressed the logjam over health care reform, urging Democrats to continue trying to pass the legislation. Obama also called for a repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which bars openly gay service members in the U.S. military. But ignoring calls for an executive order, Obama urged Congress to enact the repeal. We'll have more from Obama's State of the Union address after headlines. Honduras is entering a new phase following the swearing-in of a new president and the departure of the now former President Manuel Zelaya. On Wednesday, President Porfirio Lobo was sworn into office. A wealthy landowner, Lobo was elected in a November race boycotted by Zelaya supporters. Hours after the ceremony, Zelaya ended his 4-month stay in the Brazilian embassy and left Honduras for exile in the Dominican Republic. Just before boarding the plane, Zelaya told the assembled crowd, quote, "We'll be back." Just before he left Honduras, the Honduran Supreme Court dismissed all charges against 6 military commanders involved in the June 28th coup that removed him from office. The Obama administration says it's not ready to restore aid to Honduras suspended following the coup. But Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, Arturo Valenzuela, said he believes the new President Lobo is taking Honduras, quote, in the right direction.
I thought the president's speech was excellent.
It
was a speech of national reconciliation for all the people of Honduras.
For future things. The Haitian government is appealing to the international community to improve the earthquake relief effort as the confirmed death toll is now near 170,000. On Wednesday, Haitian President René Préval said he's thankful for the international assistance, but said it needs, quote, better coordination. Préval's comments come as the Associated Press reports his government is receiving less than a penny for each dollar the United States spends on aid efforts in Haiti. 33 cents of every dollar goes to U.S. military aid, over 3 times the 9 cents spent on food. Also Wednesday, Praval announced he would indefinitely postpone parliamentary elections and won't seek re-election when his term expires in February of 2011. The Haitian government has also slowed down the adoption process for Haitian children abroad. Flights carrying orphan children have been suspended over concerns that children could be victimized by human traffickers. Foreign adoption cases will now require the personal approval of Haitian Prime Minister Jean-Max Berive. Rescue teams, meanwhile, continue to find survivors beneath the rubble. On Wednesday, a teenage girl was pulled from the rubble of her home after 15 days buried underneath. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the Pentagon's escalating military operations in Yemen with a major new deployment of special forces. Military officials say the number of U.S. operatives will significantly increase above the estimated 200 special forces currently on the ground. The U.S. has been deeply involved in secret joint operations with Yemeni troops that have killed scores of people, including civilians and suspected al-Qaeda leaders in the past 6 weeks. The news comes as the U.S. and other nations met Wednesday in London in an international conference on Yemen. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said the U.S. won't just rely on military operations to fight Yemen's militant extremists.
We recognize that the challenges facing Yemen cannot be solved by military action alone. Progress against violent extremists and progress toward a better future for the Yemeni people will depend upon fortifying development efforts. The Yemeni people deserve the opportunity to determine their own future, not leaving their fate to extremists who incite violence and inflict harm.
Foreign ministers are also meeting in London today for an international conference on Afghanistan. On the eve of the summit, a coalition of aid groups issued a warning that the militarization of aid to Afghanistan is endangering Afghan civilians. In a report entitled "The Dangers of Militarized Aid in Afghanistan," Oxfam International and 7 other aid agencies warn the emphasis on rushed, short-term projects to win over Afghan civilians fails to address Afghanistan's deep poverty. Some of the projects also wind up becoming major security risks as they're targeted by militant groups. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner came under a torrent of criticism Wednesday at a congressional hearing into the taxpayer bailout of the insurance giant AIG. The hearing was called following the release of emails showing the New York Federal Reserve attempted to keep secret many of the details of the AIG bailout. The Fed's rescue of AIG remains controversial, in part because it secretly funneled nearly $70 billion to 16 big U.S. and European banks in what many described as a backdoor bailout. Geithner headed the New York Fed before being tapped to head the Treasury Department. Democratic Congressmember Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts criticized Geithner for refusing to use the government's enormous leverage to wring concessions from AIG.
Every opportunity to weigh in on behalf of the American people and make these people take a new deal, make them take a haircut. You scalp the folks on Bear Stearns, 2 cents on a dollar they got. 2 cents on a dollar. The folks at Goldman Sachs got 100 cents on a dollar. And that is just unacceptable.
Democratic Congressmember Dan Burton also criticized Geithner.
We have this bailout of AIG, and you don't know anything about it. Mr. Geithner had nothing to do with it. It just really boggles the mind that some of the biggest people involved in this whole thing from beginning to end had nothing to do with it. They didn't know. It was it makes you want to think that some clerk someplace was making these decisions.
Geithner, meanwhile, defended the AIG bailout, claiming it was necessary to stave off widespread economic collapse.
It is not true that the actions we took in AIG were for the benefit of anybody but the millions of Americans who at that point were suffering from the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. The only way to help reduce that damage, protect that damage, was to fix the system and prevent catastrophic failure that would have made that crisis worse.
And Democrats are gearing up to try to counter the Supreme Court's ruling that corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money to elect and defeat candidates. In a 5-4 decision, the court overturned century-old restrictions on corporations, unions, and other interest groups from using their vast treasuries to advocate for a specific candidate. Speaking on the House floor, Democratic Congressmember Donna Edwards of Maryland said she'll introduce a constitutional amendment to revoke the Supreme Court ruling.
People already believe that corporate special interests and their lobbyists run the show around here. I mean, the halls are crawling with them. But that's not enough. Now the court says to the big banks, to the drug companies, to the insurance companies, hey, all bets are off and it's open season. Our elections are for sale. A law won't fix this. We have to fix it in the Constitution. So today I'll introduce a constitutional amendment so that we, the people, can take back our elections and our democracy. This is not the People's House Incorporated. We are the people. It's our house. It's our Constitution, and it's our elections, and we plan to take it back from the United States Supreme Court.